fun news from the vet yesterday.
Oh.
So they went for their annuals yesterday,
Hmm.
and because of Puma, everybody is now privy to a group diet. This girl gained 3 pounds. She is like 15 pounds.
Wow. She's chunky. I
Uh-huh.
mean, we knew that ahead of time, but like,
But like you look at Cougar and you're like, that's a big cat. Cougar's weight,
yeah.
exactly the same year over year, no change.
Yeah.
Lynx, consistent
A big
year over
cat.
year. Big cat,
Also a big cat.
but
Yeah.
different breed. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
big cat, but he's been
Yeah.
consistent.
Right.
Puma has been the same up until this year. And so now, thanks to her, everybody gets a diet.
Puma said, I want the yum yums too much.
She does. She's ridiculous. And she throws them up, and I'm like, fantastic.
She's
Calls her.
fat, skinny.
She is fat, skinny, but she's fat, fat also.
Mm. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Blair.
And I'm Kirsten, and we are mediocre content. And as usual, we started mediocre. We yapped for like an hour and then ended up having technical difficulties.
Yes.
That's not how it goes. It's not done right.
The universe was like, y'all are talking too much. We need to check this and go on.
Y'all can literally just start, and I feel like the universe just doesn't get it. Like you need at least a full hour of yapping uselessly.
The universe is not a girl's girl.
She is not. Like, what the heck? You can't give me like an hour just to get it all out.
That's right.
Can't talk
That's
about
right.
everything on this pod. That's for sure.
1,000%. 1,000%.
There's some things that should not be recorded.
That's true. And some would say this podcast, but we're not going to go. Those people are our haters.
They don't know me.
They don't know us like that.
Just be a girl's girl. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I use that on the Lord's Day.
On the Lord's Day.
Which is kind of fitting for today, I would say. We usually record on Sundays.
I like saying today on the year of our Lord Beyonce 2024.
I want to do that, but like insert my most recent bias.
No, and that's the fun part.
Okay,
is
great.
You just like get to insert whoever you want. In the year of our Lord Taylor Swift on the Eras tour and the Barbie movie.
In the year of our Lord Bang Chan and the strayest of kids.
Strayest of kids.
It's so good.
In the year of our Lord Harry Styles.
What's the oh my gosh, in the year of our Lord, the entire One Direction band that broke my heart went on a fake hiatus and tore every girl apart.
Girl, you know that happened in 2016.
Hey,
That did not happen this year.
Hey, we can all dream,
You're right. You're
hiatus.
The biggest lie. Men will only lie to you, okay?
Somebody posted this is really bad. Grandma, please don't come for me. I know you don't listen to this, but I saw somebody that had they underlined this part of the Bible that said, and God said, all men shall be liars, and you should only follow me. And I was like, the Lord said it.
The Lord.
It's so true. I'll have to find it. It made me laugh really hard.
Honestly, though, like,
yeah,
men out here be lying. That's all I'm saying.
Some of them do. I feel it's just so interesting,
Yeah.
Well, I'd be lying if I said we shouldn't just go ahead and get started.
Yikes.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. So this is our disclaimer. Kirsten's going to talk about something today that I have not looked at
Perfect. Hey, me neither.
So we're doing great.
Twinning.
We do not give out advice on this podcast. We do not give out reliable information on this podcast sometimes.
No, all the time.
But we do introduce topics and sometimes get it right. And that is what we do here at Mediocre Content Podcast. So if you don't like that,
solid 30%.
You can go away. Rate us 5 stars.
Blair, we're at the beginning of the podcast.
I just thought I'd get it in there.
And quick. That's all we have time for today. So don't forget, send us an email at mediocrecontent@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that we're disclaimer done.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the good news now because I realize that is my job.
Indeed.
All right.
Just taking it.
This one is called Iron Man Boy.
Cute.
A 5-year-old boy who was born with one hand has become the youngest person ever to be fitted with a bionic arm. Congratulations to him.
That's crazy.
His name is Jordan. He was left in a state of pure joy when he received his Iron Man themed hero arm prosthetic last week. These are my favorite medical stories, by the way. I'm obsessed with these.
Oh my God.
Heartwarming footage showed how just hours later he was able to whiz around on his scooter while holding the handlebars with the prosthetic lifelike grip.
That is so cute.
It's really fun and it's cool, says Jordan. I like to play with the hand and make it open and close. His mother, Ashley, approached Open Bionics, the company that makes the prosthetics, when Jordan started questioning why his hand had not grown back, which honestly is like the cutest thing any child could ask. I really like, when we have kids that come in to get their tonsils taken out.
Yeah.
They wake up and they're all disoriented from the anesthesia, which is usually, crying.
Yes.
Some kids, though, they wake up and they're like, I would like my tonsils back, please. This is not fun.
Can you put those back? I know you just took them out, but.
And I'm like, honey, that is not how it works. I appreciate the enthusiasm for the project, though.
They had a goal.
Yeah. I'm like, I will get you an ice cream.
We'll settle on an ice cream.
Yeah. So let me see, where was I? She was told he was likely too young to receive one of their mechanical limbs. They let Jordan try out on an arm just to see if he could use it. Following this successful trial, they later agreed to fit him at their offices in nearby New York City. 2 years earlier than most youngsters would be approved to have this bionic arm. As soon as we left with Jordan's hero arm, he was running around with so much confidence trying to hail New York taxis.
That's the best way to do it, kid.
I would love that.
Yes.
You can even put a number on how amazing that is. It is worth its weight in gold. The first thing he wanted to do when he got home was ride his scooter to finally hold on with two hands. Reasonable. As for Jordan, he has some advice for all of us in the sweet video below. Don't give up. Just don't give up. So cute.
Coming from a kid.
Ashley found out that Jordan was missing his left hand during a 20-week pregnancy scan in the hospital. There was no specific medical cause the doctors could point to. And she initially felt upset about this prognosis, but took comfort from learning about other children who had thrived in similar situations. But yeah, that's nice.
That's so tough as a mom too, to know like you ain't gonna have that other arm. Like just the way it is.
But at the same time, I think, the child, Jordan in this case, was born and he didn't really know any different. So it's
that's also nice.
Yeah. It's different than going through a loss of like losing your arm. You know what I mean?
Could totally see that. Yeah.
And kids are like surprisingly resilient as well.
So and also, Jordan, you deserve that arm. You were the cutest little, I don't even know you, but I bet you were the cutest little kid with your super cool arm. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we always, as always, have a link in our bio if you want to check out the arm and the video. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a cool sponge. Not SpongeBob, though. Different.
Like a cool sponge or like a cold sponge?
Not a cold sponge, a cool, like I'm a cool mom, like that.
So I'm glad that was your example. I'm a cool mom.
I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
Okay. So glad we've clarified that now.
It's a Mean Girls reference.
It is.
Good.
It's
All right.
good. Yeah.
Using nothing other than light, Canadian scientists have developed an organic smart material that can either soak spilled oil out of water or repel it.
I'm so sorry. I feel like that's how we should start referring to humans. An organic smart material. It just chuckled because my brain was like, "That's me."
That is my new Instagram bio.
Organic smart material. It's my new profile.
You're so right. Oh, that's beautiful. We should put that in like the mediocre content.
We should. I'll change the title after this.
Okay. All right. The material can be used in this way, like a sponge, to quickly clean up marine oil spills before the oil reaches the shoreline and mixes with or poisons sand, vegetation, and animal life. So Dawn dish soap won't be needed in this particular instance.
We're not calling any names.
Also, have you seen those things? I saw somebody on TikTok, I think, say, Dawn, why are you washing ducks? I am not washing ducks in my house. I am washing dishes. I need you to show me how you wash dishes, not how you wash ducks. Okay.
Nice.
I think that's reasonable. It's like the shaving commercials where you're shaving like a bare leg already. Like, I need you to shave like a woolly
Sasquatch.
Yeah. No, like the razor works, you know.
I'm gonna need you to have like 5 months of hair before I believe that they can cut through there.
No, I agree. Okay. The material that this sponge is made of is called CNF SP Aerogel. Catchy. Combines a biodegradable cellulose-based material. And for those of you who don't know what cellulose is, it is literally just like what plants are made of. Kirsten, would you like to come in with the more bio? Okay.
All set. Seems right to me.
It's literally just like lettuce is cellulose and water. It's green.
Indeed. Yeah.
Photosynthesis. All right. It's been a while since I've been in bio, guys. Just bear with me. And the cellulose-based material is called spiropyrin. I think I pronounced that correctly. I don't know. A light-sensitive material, spiropyrin has a unique switchable property that allows the aerogel to go from being oil sorbent and oil repellent, just like a kitchen sponge that can be used to soak up and squeeze out water.
Nice.
Once spiropyrin has been added to the aerogel, after each usage, we just switch the light conditions, explains Dr. Bayu Helen Zhang, professor at the Canada. Oh God. Okay. Professor and Canada Research Chair at Memorial University in Newfoundland. Quote, we used the aerogel as an oil sorbent under visible light. After oil absorption, we switched the light condition to UV light, and this switch helped the sponge release the oil. So the material continues soaking up and releasing oil even after the water temperature drops, according to Dr. Chen, an assistant professor at the University of Texas, Arlington.
Nice. Very nice.
So, yeah. Part of the research was done at Canadian Light Source, a national research facility that possesses one of the world's most sophisticated synchrotron microscopes. Using it, they were able to ensure that the CNF SP aerogel was highly effective in cold temperatures, which is important, especially like because a lot of oil spills happen in cold temperatures, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
And Canada has a lot of cold temperatures, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Which would be absolutely necessary under the circumstances of an oil spill in Canadian waters, which makes,
Hopefully they also do the opposite training, like seeing if it can go in like high temperatures, like at the equator.
Yeah. Well, and it could be inherent that it works fine in warm water. The cold water was the problem, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah. New developments in oil spill relief technology.
I'm here for that. I've heard recently there was an oil spill somewhere. It's like a boat had sank and there was like no crew which was really weird or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I know that
crazy.
we're out here just letting all that stuff happen, and I feel bad about it.
Appreciate. I also
So,
changed our description, which I feel
oh,
really
good.
sassy about.
I love it.
Enjoy the new description, everyone. It has nothing to do with our podcast. I think it's fabulous.
I think it's fabulous too.
Well, most oil spills happen in water. And if there's one thing I know, the easiest way to get across water is to build a bridge. So
And get over it. No,
and get over it. Cry me a river, build a bridge,
and get over it.
Oh my gosh, we used to say that like we were the sassiest beings, but it was so
I know.
long. Is there no shortened version?
Yeah, you just like do the initials
Yeah.
of it. Be
Yeah.
like, I don't even know. I can't
This is
do
some
it.
crazy acronym.
Yeah, some crazy acronym.
No way. Yeah.
And I think that was popularized by the song that Justin Timberlake put out called Cry Me a River.
Cry me a river.
Which arguably, in my humble opinion, is like not even that good.
It's not his best. That's for sure.
I
It's
agree.
not his best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Justin. Anyway, not that I know you on a first
Sorry,
name
not
basis.
sorry.
Sorry, sorry, not sorry. Sorry, Timberlake. Not for me.
Mr. Timberlake.
Mr.
To you,
Timberlake.
ma'am.
That's how I really want to start calling celebrities, like, by their last names, like Mr., Mrs., etc. That'd be so
I think
fun.
that's respectful.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Swift. No, Miss Swift. Sorry.
Miss Swift.
We're not a Kelsey yet. Anyway. We're just poking the fans.
Don't
It's fine.
put that out here like that.
I'm
like
just
you
poking the
know
fans.
something.
I don't. If anything,
Really-
it's the opposite.
He really
I
doesn't.
know very little.
He has no idea.
So with that, this episode's on bridges. Now, I just want to be very forthcoming and say that this was not inspired by any of the bridge-like catastrophes currently occurring. It is literally just about the history of bridges, what kinds there are, as well as some record-breaking bridges, which there is weirdly a lot of controversy about. If there's anything to have controversy about, we're talking about bridges. And this isn't even like disasters. This is like, well, my bridge is bigger than your bridge kind of controversy. So we know who's having those. Anyway, we'll talk about
Not looking anywhere particular, but we know.
I would never say any names at all.
This particular conversation.
I would never. So yeah, just a little bit of history, telling you how they got started, how far we have, construction evidence of whatever. You get the gist. So if you don't know, a bridge is a structure that will provide passage over particular obstacles, including valleys, terrain, water, etc. This is normally done with both natural or human-made materials. A bridge is a bridge. It doesn't really matter what it's made of. What matters what it's made of is secondary to how it is maintained and actually held up, and we'll get into that. But when somebody says bridge the gap, that's exactly what it means. Bridge is both a noun depicting the structure itself, as well as a verb depicting the action of bridging across something. So that's fun. Love English. Language. Thought we were doing science. Anyway. So naturally, when they first started creating bridges back in ye olden days, you would probably be using materials that were closest to you. So wood and mud were the most common resources very early on. So humans would first start finding ways to cross rivers in hard terrains, and wood was very prevalent. Probably, if you're in a forested area, got a lot of that to use. And there's proof of these structures that date back to 1500 BC. And our first ancestors used very simple techniques. So they would just pile on the timber, and you would walk across small rivers and small waterways. And answer.
Do you think that our ancestors saw the beavers doing their thing and were like,
look at those things.
Maybe we should do that.
Those organic species over there.
Smart materials.
With very smart materials are building bridges, and we could do that.
Yeah.
I think.
Or do you think that they stole the beaver's house and was like, we're going to take this? This is already chopped down.
I don't understand what the beef with beavers is now. We need to do an episode with beavers, I guess.
I was just curious because like
you heard it here first. Blair has a beef with beavers, everyone.
okay.
You know? Just taking it personally.
Quite enough.
Actually, if anyone has a beef with beavers, it's definitely my grandfather because they kept backing up the creek. And he'd have to go down there with a stick. He always knew it was going to be a bad day when he put on his wellies and he's just chomping down the hill like, we're going to go freaking break up the dam because it's flooding the whole bottom of our like yard. It's a great day in that house. Anyway. And it's a true story. So
I love that for him.
True story. And you know what my grandpa looks like. So
most people have like battles in their yard with the squirrels or like the raccoons, but no, y'all had beavers, and
my grandpa went to war with the beavers.
And that's great.
It is great. That and the copperheads, but that's a completely different issue.
Yeah, that's deserving, and I am supporting of that.
I snake lovers, close your ears for a moment, but I also enjoyed walking outside to him just holding a shovel with purpose. I was like, there's got to be a snake, and he just comes back and he'll look at you and be like, copperhead. Just like put the shovel back in. It was great.
Oh my God. I don't think I've told this story on the pod, but like speaking of snakes,
not to
derail us any further.
Fine. What is this podcast for?
So as a child, we lived in a like old farmhouse.
Nice.
And my parents had like renovated it basically from scratch. And in the eaves of the roof, there was space there for birds to like fly in and lay their little eggs.
Very cute.
And it was very cute. I don't know, it didn't bode well for our attic, but whatever. But
that's fine.
So one morning, 6-7-year-old Blair woke up. She opened her blinds in her window, and there was a like what only could be described as a 6-foot-long black snake crawling up the window, get up on the side of the house to get to the bird eggs.
The birds! Oh my
that
God.
were in the eaves.
Oh no!
I freaked out.
Yes,
and my dad like had to get up. I don't know if he got up on the ladder or if the snake just like fell down, but either way, the snake later that day was underneath a shovel in half.
He was now 2 snakes. Your dad's a magician.
Yeah. He did in fact turn that snake into 2 snakes.
It's actually very impressive.
Yeah.
I love that and also hate that. The crappy thing is like king snakes and black snakes are so good because they eat the copperhead eggs. And but like in the house, you are my enemy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And I am
go away.
I am 100% aware that black snakes are our friends. Like I totally, but in that moment,
absolutely
can't say that I was not. And it was like, yeah. So anyway, also one time my mom likes to tell this story. So this was before they had kids and they were like renovating, and my mom was home alone. My dad was at work and she was like working on something, and she was like, I think she was at the bottom of the stairs. And you know, all of a sudden a snake just like falls from the ceiling onto the stairs.
Did you live in like a snake pit?
They wanted the birds. Kirsten, they wanted the birds. They were like in the attic. They were in the attic. And like, thankfully, that's the only 2 encounters I think we had like close to the house with the snakes. But it was a time.
You know what? Joke's on you. The birds were trying to make a living with a restaurant and you guys ruined that for them.
Well, these snakes, so sad.
These snakes had reservations.
You know what? Not my baby, not my problem. Like
at least you didn't have your cats dragging dead snakes into your house.
See, and that is where I'm grateful. Yeah.
I had, I don't think Did you ever meet Misty and Sylvie? And they may have passed before you met them.
Yeah, no, I did not.
Outside of snakes, there was also this one time when I was teenage Kirsten and Misty ran in and grandma yelled, "There's something in her mouth." And of course, she comes straight to my room and lays a dead bunny on my carpet and proceeds
Oh,
to meow, show me her belly, like, "Hey,
she's
girl."
like, look at me. I
Like,
did so good.
I just remember screaming down the stairs, "It's a bunny!" I think I'm pretty sure my grandpa came up and got
Yeah, it's good.
it.
Oh my God.
Ew, Misty. Cats, man.
Gross.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, bridges. I forgot.
Sorry. All right, we're good. We're good.
No, that's great. We needed that. So, obviously, like most things, as time goes on, there's manufacturing techniques and tools that become more advanced. So, wooden bridges became more elaborate in their design and accessible across multiple civilizations, not just in places that had wood that were like, oh, we'll just do our own, but also importing and exporting. And that includes the artists themselves that were creating a lot of these designs. Europe, for example, had the earliest bridge specifically in Switzerland, where architects of the Roman Empire would make small footbridges to bridges up to 6 meters or 20 feet by the 2nd century AD. Naturally, this appeal was opposed by other materials because it was cheap, accessible, and easy to work with. So, components were also easy to move, and design efforts were small because a chisel for wood versus a chisel for stone is going to provide different issues and challenges, etc. It could also be used for multiple avenues of a bridge. So, obviously, what you're probably used to as well are driving bridges, but you probably have also walked over a bridge. And there are train trestles that are technically bridges. So, it was good to have multiple functions at a cheap and accessible resource kind of level. And also, you could combine things with it. So you could pave it with wood and then have stones and earth around it. Easy to work with, easy to combine. One of the most famous bridges, though, was designed in medieval Europe and would come from the efforts of Rudolph, who was Duke of Austria. This is specifically, I think, what is that? Rudolph the Fourth? Is that what that Roman numeral is?
Yes,
The fourth, yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. And who was between 1358 and 1360 and would create bridges across Lake Zurich. And that was about 1450 meters long or 4760 feet and 4 meters or 13 feet wide. The bridge remained in use for about 500 years, but in 2001, it was reconstructed to its older glory and actually opened to the public. Currently, the oldest wooden bridge is still in Switzerland, and it goes across the Reuss River in the city of Lucerne.
So
Yeah.
I just realized because I recognize Lucerne because I knew that I had been there when I traveled around Europe. I have walked across that bridge and I didn't even realize it until just now.
She is historical, everyone. That's super cool.
Yeah, I had no idea. Anyway, it's very beautiful. They have lots of flowers on it.
Oh, like carved or like real flowers?
No, it's like covered. It's a covered bridge. Beautiful. And then there's like little window boxes that have flowers that like spill over the side. It's very beautiful.
That sounds really magical. That's what I want. Like I want a garden with like a pretty pergola with like wisteria and stuff. Oh, gorgeous. And it has like a little koi pond water fountain.
Yeah. I will say Switzerland is very expensive of a place to go, but it's like very magical. It's a magical place. The like landscape is beautiful, and also they have really good chocolate, so you can't go wrong.
I've heard people love Switzerland and Denmark specifically.
Yeah, have I been to Denmark? I don't think so, but
I've heard great things.
Yeah, you can't go wrong, honestly.
Yeah. So from the wooden bridges, those medieval times also provided other construction materials. They also would need to advance for not just the longevity of the bridge, but as bridges got longer, as they got taller, you're going to need more reliable options for constructing them. And even though wood is good, wood still rots. And at that time, they didn't have crap. It's like a term that it's like a sealant for the wood. Like that
Like
wasn't
primer.
right. Like, yeah, like they
Yeah.
weren't tempered for other elements,
Sure.
right? It's just you're cutting down a tree and you're throwing it into a bridge. So that's not necessarily reliable for longevity. And so a lot of efforts would be kind of creating different methods of creating bridges. Now, one that is pretty, but not necessarily fixing that problem of longevity is something that India did, which I thought was pretty interesting enough to at least talk about it because I feel like we see some of these structures even today. But there was a technique to build the bridge from live growth. So from live trees, you're not cutting the trees down and using them as bridge material. You're using and manipulating the trees kind of like a bonsai almost to create a natural bridge.
Nice.
And so over a period, I think they said of 2 decades, Indian architecture would mold and guide the growth of trees, the roots, the trunks, and everything to create these structures. And obviously, they were 100% natural materials. So it didn't really fix the longevity issue, but it was cool.
Yeah.
And very difficult to do. But now we're trying to create that stability. We need to connect those cities, ports, neighboring civilizations. You've got more drastic terrain, especially in mountainous areas. And so to create those more permanent and stable bridges and road conditions, they began to make their mark on history by leveling up the uneven terrain and using bridges across these more extreme land formations with stones. These early bridges would finally receive a massive update in Greece, where builders and mathematicians would discover new ways of molding the weight of the bridge material into structures that could remain strong enough to carry these incredible weights, because now you've got carts and horses and things like that, a little bit different than foot traffic. And so Rome would take this, because Rome's a copycat. And
because Rome.
because Rome. And they would actually introduce the actual arch. And if you've taken a history class or an architecture class, you know these arches very well. Rather than just covering the entire surface from the deck of the bridge with the stone or wood, they would instead create these rounded arch shapes that would enable what's considered downward force from the top of the bridge to the arch to meet the equal force that was pushed up from the ground to build the bridge form or foundation. And this would result in the design being squeezed as the material of the bridge structure was very rigid and strong. And in fact, were so strong that they could carry as much load as the bridge weighed. So incredibly big weight capacity. One of these arches started gaining popularity around the world, and Rome builders would end up traveling to create over 900 bridges across 26 different modern countries, including for pedestrians, aqueducts, and viaducts. And if you don't know anything about Rome outside of the arches, you almost certainly know about the aqueducts that are even still usable today, which is fantastic. And that is considered a type of bridge. It just, instead of people or things, it moves water. So that's,
which is kind of contradictory to the whole concept of a bridge.
of going over water, just carrying the water to, yeah. So Roman stone arch bridges were semicircular, with several being made in segmented forms, which offered greater protection from forces of floodwaters, also ironically, and enabled builders to infuse less material into the bridge itself to make it lighter. One of the best examples of these segmented arch bridges can actually be seen in Lamira, or the Lamira Bridge, and this is in southwestern Turkey. And this features 26 segmental arches with average span to rise ratio of 5 to 3 to 1. And in the Alcantara Bridge in Spain, and which is in Spain, I think is what they meant to say, which is today viewed as one of the most impressive and best preserved masterpieces of ancient Roman architecture. There's also the 17-meter long Turkish Karamagara Bridge. Hopefully I'm saying all this right. And that was built in 5th or the 6th century, and it represents the oldest surviving Roman bridge that features a pointed arch. So there's a lot of good examples of these across the world. They're very sustainable, obviously, because they're still standing today and very cool. So if you live near one of those areas or something like that, check them out. Obviously, though, this was a new technique, and it's not necessarily, while it's strong, it wasn't necessarily the easiest to put together. Builders first had to create wooden arches that were in the exact measurements that the finished bridge was supposed to emulate, and then they would have to use that wood construction as a container for the stones and other substances, of course. And that was what we would now call mortar. So you're gluing it together.
Yeah.
And they were also the first civilization on Earth to discover that mortar didn't dissolve in rain. And that's why when you go to the Roman grounds, a lot of their buildings and structures are still there because it was such a strong material. And in fact, I think there was recently something on the History Channel, maybe it was a year or so ago, that discussed that building companies are actually doing research on the substances and materials used in the ancient mortar because of how resilient it is. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
And then, of course, stones that were used for building bridges were also found locally, but mortar was specifically ground up volcanic rock and it had to be imported from certain areas. So it was a little bit more pricey to do.
Very pricey.
Very pricey. So the last little bit here is types of bridges. And I'm just going to gloss on this because in the second half, we'll actually go through the different structures that lead to those types. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview. Over the last several hundred or 7,000 years, bridges have played a critical role in developing the earliest civilizations and spreading knowledge, trade, transportation for people. And initially, was made of simple materials, like we've already discussed, and has evolved since to have decking, larger gorges with extremely tall pylons. And starting in the 13th century BC, Greek Bronze Age area, stone arch bridges would quickly become widespread, like we said, and eventually lead to using even steel and iron. And that this was to ensure the bridge would, one, be able to serve its intended role, so either pedestrian, car, a mixture, whatever, as well as carry different weights across these various treacherous terrains and distances. And so what's important is that, like I said in the beginning, the material in which the bridge is made is not nearly as significant as how it's constructed. And so, like I said, when we get back, we'll talk about different types of structures. We might even talk about some that you have seen or are cognizant of. And then we'll talk about the beef that's apparently happening in the bridge world.
Bridge community.
The bridge community. I feel like that's really weird, but we'll get all in that in the second half.
Hello, this podcast is sponsored by the Tooth Fairy, Santa, the Easter Bunny, Dracula, the Keebler Elves, Jack Frost, Bugs Bunny, Winnie the Pooh, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster.
Thank you for your continued support. If you are interested in sponsoring mediocre content, please contact us by owl or seance. No, but really though, you can contact us at mediocrecontentpodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at mediocresquawks, or Instagram at mediocrecontentpodcast. Also, if you like these fake ads, or if you're sick of them and want real ads, rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts.
Now back to the show.
Welcome back. I'm trying to convince my cat to sit with me. It's not working. It's super sad.
Super sad.
Super sad. Look, she's doing it now.
Puma went to the vet the other day. Can I out her?
I mean, sure. It's not like she listens to our podcast.
That's right. You're right. I just didn't want to be disrespectful.
That's fine.
But Puma did go to the vet yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
And she was called obese.
I mean, she is.
She is obese.
She is.
I would never say that about
to her face as I'm sitting next to her.
Yeah.
I would never. Yeah, she's playing Ring Around the Chair right now.
Get that exercise, girl.
It's her own fault. What can you say?
She's very food motivated. What are you going to do?
She is, but now she's punishing all of her siblings because they get to go on a group diet. It's like group
diet.
punishment.
I know.
Disappointing. Okay, so besides Puma being fat, some of them bridge be fat with a pH, and it just depends on what they were made out of and how far they had to go. You're so welcome.
Thick boy.
So the core structure of the bridge determines how it will distribute the forces of tension, compression, torsion, bending, and shear. And all of those are very important, very specific, and I do not have time to go into all of those. So do your own research and look it up.
If you have a friend who's a civil engineer, they'll be able to tell you
Mhm.
about these things.
Sure will. And they're very important things. And I know people are like, when I'm in the house sways. It's supposed to do that because of all those other forces to make sure it don't just come falling down.
Unless an earthquake is happening, in which case it's not supposed to do that.
It's a little bit unnatural, sure.
It's different. Yeah.
So
use your context clues to figure that one out. Okay?
I mean, if your whole existence is jiggling in that moment, it's probably a little bit of alarm.
It's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while all bridges must handle all of those forces simultaneously, various types of bridges will dedicate more of their capacity to handle specific forces better. And that's where that structure kind of comes in. Handling those forces can be centralized in only a few notable structure members or be distributed via truss, which we'll talk about, across almost the entire structure of the bridge. So, for example, one type of bridge is called a beam bridge, and these types of bridges will employ the simplest form of bridge structure that includes one or several horizontal beams that can either span the area between what's called abutments or relieve some pressure on the structural piers, which is like obviously the long things that hold the bridge up. The core force that impacts beam bridge transforms vertical force into shear and flexural load transferred to the support structures, so the abutments or mid-bridge piers. So because of their simplicity, they are the oldest bridges known to man. They were initially built by simply dropping wooden logs over short rivers or ditches. They started being used extensively with the arrival of metalworks, steel boxes, and pre-stressed construction concrete. And beam bridges today are separated into girder bridges, plate girder bridges, box girder bridges, and simple beam bridges. I like the simple beam. Individual decking of the segmented beam bridge can be the same length, variable, inclined, or V-shaped, so you have a little bit of an option. And then the most famous example of a beam bridge, if you want to look one up, is the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, and this is in southern Louisiana. And this particular bridge is 23.83 miles long or 38.35 kilometers long. So yeah. Wow. You're going to be more impressed when we get to the longest bridge later. So then there's truss bridges, which we've talked about a little bit. And if you've ever ridden on a train over a bridge, you probably heard something called a trestle. That's essentially what we're talking about here. This is a popular bridge design that uses a diagonal mesh of most often triangular-shaped posts above the bridge to distribute forces across the entire structure. Individual elements of this structure, which are usually just straight beams, can endure dynamic forces of tension and compression. If you don't know, just a little short aside, metal and other types of materials can expand and contract in certain weather and heat conditions. So that's why it's important for that compression and tension factor, because as the metal expands when it's really hot, for example, that trestle or those beams need to be able to take the load as it's expanding and then be able to support the load as it contracts. Now, obviously, you're not seeing the bridge like do the accordion. It's not like that noticeable, but it's more like its connections. So yeah, kind of scary to think about. Anyway, still, by distributing those loads across the entire structure, the bridge can handle much stronger forces and heavier loads than other types of bridges, which is why the most common truss designs are what's called a king post and a queen post, which I think is super cute. And basically, there's many types overall, but if it's a king type, it has two diagonal posts supported by a single vertical post in the center. And then the queen is two diagonal posts, two vertical posts, and a horizontal post that will connect the two vertical posts at the top. I feel like the king version is like, yeah, just stick one in the middle. And the queen's like, no, we need like all the beams.
Yeah.
Every single one. But it's good for trains because they're very good at that support. It's got a lot of cross sections in order to support you across the whole length of the bridge. It's a little bit safety thought when you're thinking about a train that's got thousands of cars attached to it. So
nice.
Then one that I like to say is a cantilever bridge. So these are similar to arched bridges as they do not utilize vertical bracings and instead will use diagonal bracings with horizontal beams that are supported only on one end. The vast majority of cantilever bridges use one pair of continuous spans between two piers, with beams meeting in the center over the obstacle that the bridge spans. So, like the river, the terrain, the whatever. Mm-hmm. They can also use mid-bridge piers as their foundation, and this will span in both directions towards other piers and abutments. And the size and weight capacity of these types of bridges impacts the number of segments it uses. So simple pedestrian crossings, very short distances in most cases, can use a more simpler design and less of those arches. Nice. But of course, if you're going larger distances, you need more. That makes sense. And so in that case, you'll have two beams coming out of both abutments or multiple center piers. They can only span, realistically, though, smaller distances in general. They can be bare or use a truss formation below. So sometimes these types can even be combined. And the most popular construction material are structural steel, iron, and pre-stressed concrete. So
makes sense.
I would say this next one, though, is probably the most common that people are used to, specifically when you're thinking of like San Francisco. These are called suspension bridges, and they utilize spreading ropes or cables from the vertical suspenders to hold the weight of the bridge deck and the traffic that's going across it. So obviously, we're thinking cars and other vehicles. Mm-hmm. They're able to suspend decking over large spans, so a lot of the longer and taller bridges are probably going to fall into this category. And this type of bridge is very popular in that case because if you've got a long distance to go and you need to connect maybe two cities that are, literally spanned by a giant mountain range, you might use this because it's really reliable and has a lot of sway when it comes to weather events and things like that. Literally and figuratively. Originally made even in ancient times with materials like ropes or vines, with decking of wood planks or bamboo, the modern variant uses a wide array of materials: steel wire, braided rope, forged or cast iron links, lots of different options. And because only abutments and piers are fixed to the ground, most bridge structures can be very flexible. And that's super good, specifically in San Francisco, where you've got extreme winds or even earthquakes, like Blair was talking about earlier. It has a lot of mobility so that it doesn't just come crashing down as soon as something sways, like makes it move. Mm-hmm. So it is supposed to do that.
Well, and it sounds like you have to find the balance between Indeed. Like having a firm, like stable structure and then also something that's like flexible.
Yes, exactly. So San Francisco's is the Golden Gate Bridge, which I feel like even if you're not from the States, you're probably familiar with. But there's also the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City, which is a suspension bridge. And in Japan, they have the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge. I would say Kaikyo. I'm not sure. But those are three examples. So if you want to look them up and see what I'm talking about, or if you know the Golden Gate Bridge, then you probably have a good idea. Then we have the last one I really want to go into detail about, and that is a movable bridge. And I don't really like that they're like, yeah, it just moves. But the reason it's important to me is because think like when you're going up to a bridge and they have those like stop signs where it's like stop here if red. Yeah, you should probably do that because these are the bridges that will lift for larger sea vessels such as cruise ships or tanker ships. So it's kind of good to have an idea of what you're dealing with the new
Oh my God.
Bridge.
Fun fact about me. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, there is a bridge in southeastern Virginia that is called the James River Bridge. Okay. And it's a drawbridge. So it like opens.
So that's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yes. And when I was younger, I used to have nightmares about accidentally like not being able to stop in time and careening over the side into the middle of the bridge.
You were having a stress dream.
I know. Yeah. This is the amount of anxiety I was feeling with, okay? And then careening into the ocean and then trying to get my seatbelt undone so that I could swim to the surface.
Good thing you're a good swimmer.
And then I woke up. So yeah. Anyway.
I want you to know, and I'm so sorry that I'm doing this to you and everyone, but I have to tell you that when everyone says when I was young, my brain goes, when I was a young warthog.
When he was a young warthog.
Without fail.
Yeah.
So it just catches me off guard.
No, it's true. No, I got
Right. Yes, we are talking about drawbridges though. So,
yeah.
And I say drawbridges because some of them aren't drawbridges, but the majority of them are drawbridges. Anyway, sure. Movable bridges. So they're obviously they can't. Here's the deal with things like drawbridges, right? Similar, I will. Don't you worry. Here's the thing. Start the drama early. So the thing about like suspension bridges, like we talked about, they have to be flexible, but they also have to be very stable because things like suspension bridges are carrying a lot of stuff, a lot of heavy things over vast distances and under some very questionable weather conditions. Yeah. The same is true for something like a drawbridge, because in most cases, you're probably going to, especially in the case of it being for water vessels, you're probably going to have a lot of salt water, which eats a lot of metal. You're also probably going to have winds, so you have to make sure that similar to a suspension bridge, it is flexible. So in this case, it's that compromise very much so between the strength and carrying capacity and the durability, but now also it has to hinge. So, you know what I mean? Like a suspension bridge has to be all of that and stay put.
And so much more.
And so much more. So their core functionality is to provide that safe passage of various types of loads with the ability to also get the heck out of the way, depending on what's going on underneath the deck. Yeah. And so most commonly, movable bridges are made with simple trusses or tied arch designs. They will span rivers with kind of a low to small clearance. And did you just hear that?
What was that?
It's Tyler watching TV downstairs.
Oh, good.
Oh, goody.
Shout out to Tyler.
Sorry if you can hear his show. So most commonly, these designs are there to provide the clearance, the stability, but also when the need arises to lift the entire deck very aggressively into the air or to completely sway the bridge in a direction away from whatever's coming towards it. And so they're kind of this medium to large structure. They are most famously specifically talking about the London Tower Bridge, and that clearance deck rises from about 8.6 meters to 42.5 once it's opened. But there are tons of examples of these, and they're actually very cool. Like the engineering feats are insane when it comes to things like this. So it's very cool to see these types of bridges in action. I've seen them on a smaller scale in like the Virginia area as well. So it's, it's not huge like the London Bridge, but it's pretty neat.
It's fun. Yeah.
It is fun. So just some honorable mentions if you want something else to take a look at. Highly recommend if you're into bridges or whatever. There's double-decker bridges, which I think are so creepy, and we use one in New York when we go through it all the time. It's kind of scary, and you lose signal because it's all just metal around you.
Yeah, they have one in Pittsburgh too, and it's interesting because like one flow of traffic is going one way and the other flow of traffic is going the other way. And it's just interesting because like it took me a while to like figure out that it was a different bridge on the top and the bottom. I don't know why, but I was like, oh, did I just okay, this is interesting.
Okay, it's it's trippy for sure. Yeah, and also I don't know how high the one in Pittsburgh is, but the one in New York is very high.
Yeah.
So if you're afraid of heights, maybe bridges aren't your thing. I don't know. Train bridges and trusses, specifically pipeline bridges. So in this case, that's taking non-human materials from one place to another, which is typically water, air, gas, or comm cables. So your communication cables, aqueducts, We talked about this for water. Viaducts actually are specific for things that cross a valley or lower ground, and it can be whatever material. And then commercial bridges, so they're actually built into buildings. And I think it's interesting because I see this on like TikToks that are based in I think it was China, maybe was the one I saw, but basically the bridge, which is the metro bridge, goes through a building, and it's like
So it's like
apartment or something.
it's like the metro at Disneyland that goes to that
Yes,
hotel.
exactly
That.
like that. Exactly. Two different levels.
Similar but different.
Yes, it's very much like that. So, and I think that's a pretty neat concept. So, you never have to like go outside. You just walk out of your apartment and you're like catching the train. So, all of that's fine and well. But now to the beef section. I'm not saying we're talking about beef. We're still on bridges. What we're talking about is the fact that there is debate. So, I just want to be very clear that the articles that I chose for these claimed different things, and there's a difference between the highest bridge and the longest bridge and the biggest bridge. Okay, so I've got it into two sections. It's whatever. Sure. I have the 11 longest bridges as of May of this year, because you'd be surprised how quickly this changes also, which I think is probably where some of the controversy comes from.
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying to outbridge each other. And then the second half is the top 10 tallest bridges as of April of this year.
Okay.
I'm
ready.
Strap in. So number one, which for the longest bridges, is the Danyang Kunshan Grand Bridge. And this is in China. And you're going to see a lot of them are in China because China's like, nah, I got it, apparently.
Apparently.
So this bridge is allegedly 164,805 meters or 540,700 feet long. And this specific bridge was built as a component of the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway, which is also a mouthful, and it spans the scenic landscape between Danyang, Jiangsu province, and Kunshan, Jiangsu province. So just different areas of those provinces. And it serves as that connection point to their high-speed network. So it's actually a very important train bridge that they have. And it started construction in 2006, was finished in 2010, and it's mostly made up of those viaduct types. So they're on the lower valley kind of bridge construction, and some are supported by giant pillars and pylons, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Number two is in Taiwan, and it's called the Changhua Kaohsiung Viaduct. So again, a little bit of a lower bridge. This one is 157,317 meters long, or 516,132 feet long. And an important turning point in Taiwan's modernization efforts was reached in 2016 when this particular bridge was finished, and it started actually in 1999. So it took a very long time in bridge years, I guess, to actually complete.
Yeah.
This viaduct was a crucial component of their high-speed railway system, and it made it possible to travel quickly between the island's main cities, which is obviously important for like work and importing and exporting materials and things like that. And that's great. Number three, we're back in China with the Tianjin Grand Bridge. This is 113,000 meters, 113,000 meters, 373,000 feet long. An important milestone, apparently, in China's ambitious infrastructure, which, since they're on this list a lot, I would concur. In 2010, it was completed, and it started in 2006. Ironically, this is also the same as the first place bridge, the Danyang Kunshan Grand Bridge. And this particular bridge crosses rivers, valleys, and other urban areas with the least amount of environmental disturbance possible by utilizing sophisticated engineering techniques such as the viaducts, spans, and particular supports. So, and actually, I'm pretty sure we stay in China for the next two as well. There's the Wan'an-Wei Grand Bridge. This one was 79,000 meters long, and it was built as a vital part of another high-speed railway there. It was constructed between 2005 and 2008. And then there's the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge, and that's 55,000 meters long. And this one is a tunnel system, which consists of a series of 3 cable stayed bridges, an undersea tunnel, and 4 artificial islands, which sounds to me like the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, if I'm being honest.
Definitely. Very similar.
Very. It is both the longest sea crossing and the longest open sea fixed link in the world. And the names are so long that they just give them acronyms, which I appreciate. But this particular bridge, the HZMB, spans the Ling Ding and the Zhuhu channels, and they connect Hong Kong and Macau with the Zhuhai, which is a major city on the Pearl River Delta in China. This particular bridge called out the specificities of how much it took to actually build. So I thought it was interesting to at least get an idea of what we're talking about. Basically, it was $18.8 billion to build this. And the cost of constructing the main bridge was estimated at 7.56 billion, and it was allegedly funded by bank loans and shared among the governments of mainland China, which was Hong Kong and Macau. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Going back to Thailand, because I feel like they're just in a race with each other now. The Bang Na Expressway is 53,000 meters and built over 4 years. Sorry, somebody is bothering me. Sorry about that. But the Bang Na Expressway was intended to relieve traffic congestion in their metropolis, and it was finished in 2000. Nice. And that's pretty much it. Its mostly main function is for businesses and residential areas. So cool. I feel like that's the thing, right? We're seeing a lot of these are mostly made for their high-speed expressways.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Definitely. Especially because they're trying to just complete the route of transportation for people.
Exactly. And so realistically, I forget if it's this section or if they ever mention it, but essentially if you took, instead of breaking them off like this into the individual connections, if you were to take like front to back all of the connections, like it's insane how long these expressways are.
I believe it. Yeah.
A lot of people have probably heard of the Beijing Grand Bridge. This one's 48,000 meters long, and it's an essential component of their speed system as well. Obviously, because Beijing is a very big, like Hong Kong, it's a very big hub for businesses and residents of the country. It was underway in 2006 and completed in 2010, so they did a lot of bridge building in that time frame. And in order to resist the varied topography and the weather of the area, it was built using the viaduct spans and supports, which is very common in general for the other ones that they've built. The next one is actually in the Philippines, and it's called the Metro Manila Skyway System, and this one is 39,000 meters. It's an elevated highway network known as that Metro Manila Skyway System, and it's evidence of the nation's attempt to reduce traffic and enhance the nation's transportation system in their crowded capital area. The system of elevated highways offers commuters a quicker and more effective way to get around the urban environment. And the North Luzon Expressway Skyway, the South Luzon Expressway Skyway, and the Skyway Stage 3 are some of the interconnecting portions that make up the entire system, which is kind of what I was talking about with the China system. Once you string them all together, it's huge. Nice. So yeah, that one's super cool. It's still being built, allegedly. So it's not complete, but that's okay because similar to China, it's probably being done in sections, which is why there's one called Stage 3 because they're probably on Stage 3.
Right.
And so anyway, they're still working on it as far as I know. So Lake, we've talked about this one in Louisiana. So the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, like what a weird name anyway. 38,000 meters. And it's a bit of a contemporary engineering feat, and it crosses the Lake Pontchartrain in Louisiana, which is why it's called that. And it connects the cities of Metairie and Mandeville, and it is the longest continuous bridge over water in the world. So it's not the longest bridge, but it is the longest continuous over water. The region's transportation infrastructure reached a major turning point with the completion of this causeway, which started in 1956. Or 1955, I guess. And in order to provide a smooth route across the water, the bridge is made up of 2 parallel spans that are each supported by thousands of pilings drilled into the lake bed. And then the last 2 are in China, and then Canada squeezed in at the end, which is fun.
Good for them.
Good. Yeah, exactly. There's the Wuhan Metro Bridge in China, 37,000 meters. And this one in particular spans the Yangtze River, which I feel like a lot of people are familiar with. And these will connect the districts of Hangzhou and Wuchang inside of the city. It was completed in 2013, began in 2009, so after the other ones in the main expressway were built. And the Canadian one is called the Confederation Bridge, and this is 12,000 meters, and it's a box girder bridge, so it's kind of one of the simpler ones. I say simpler lightly. Nothing in bridge building is simple, but this is the more of a simple design.
Uh-huh.
And it carries the Trans-Canadian Highway across the Albuquerque Passage of the Northumberland Strait. And this links the province of Prince Edward Island with the mainland province of New Brunswick. This one opened May 31, 1997, and is Canada's longest bridge in general and the world's longest bridge over ice-covered water, which is very specific for Canada.
That is really specific.
This one also kindly mentioned how much it cost. So the actual construction took place between 1993 and 1997, so it was birthed when we were, which is fun. And it cost about 1.3 billion Canadian dollars, which is still nothing to sneeze at. Before its official naming, though, Prince Edward Islanders would often refer to the bridge as the Fixed Link, which I think is kind of cute. It gave it a nickname. And the speed limit on this bridge is 80 kilometers per hour or 50 miles per hour, but can vary because apparently this bridge has extreme wind and weather conditions, considering where it is and you're over icy, windy water. And when traveling at that particular speed limit on a good day, it takes about 10 minutes to cross.
Wow.
So I included the timestamp there because if it takes 10 minutes to cross 12,000 meters or 42,000 feet, like imagine the longest bridge at like hundreds
You're
of
on
thousands.
that bridge for a long time.
You sure are. Lots of time to think about your life choices.
Yeah.
Okay, and not to bore you further, but the tallest bridges aren't going to be as exciting, I think, because it's not really like the big numbers like these where like, oh my gosh, that's sprawling 20 mountain ranges or expressways. This is just like, it's pretty tall, you know?
It's pretty tall.
She got big legs, I guess. I don't know. France is actually the #1 tallest bridge. And this is the one that was apparently debated. And to me, it's interesting that it is the tallest bridge and also a viaduct, because again, a viaduct is taking place across lower valley-like grounds.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Anyway, I'm not calling you out, France. I'm just telling you like I see it. Millau Viaduct in France is 336 meters tall. That's about 1,100 feet. And this tower giant is a cable-stayed, multi-span bridge holding up their expressway, which is across the Tarn Gorge Valley, which is why it's a viaduct. And before drivers reach the bridge, they cross a toll plaza just under 4 miles north, and it cost $424 million and opened in December 2004 after just 3 years of total construction. So,
nice.
Yay. Bonjour, I guess. Kanakalal Bridge in Turkey is 334 meters tall. It was built in 2002 for another expressway. It is a suspension design and took a total of 5 years to construct. And this one is also currently the longest suspension bridge in the world. Nice. And I feel like that's like a very specific distinction. And there was a lot. This is where the beef came in, because it was like, yeah, you're the longest bridge. And it's like, yeah, but I'm the longest suspension bridge. And it's like, yeah, but I'm the longest bridge. It's stupid stuff like that. Like the technicalities.
I think people are getting in the weeds, I feel.
Indeed. Over bridges.
Yeah.
Over bridges. Anyway, we're back in China for the next two, and it's the Pingtang Bridge, which was 332 meters. And there's also the number 4 spot, which is the Husu Tong Yangtze River Bridge, which is 325 meters. The first one is a multi-span cable-stayed bridge, and the second one is just a cable-stayed bridge. The difference is that the Pingtang Bridge, which is in the third slot, isn't necessarily specific to any types of traffic necessarily. It's just your normal pedestrian car vehicle situation.
Sure.
But the Husu Tong Yangtze River Bridge is a cable stayed that supports 4-track railways, a 6-lane expressway, and was built very recently in 2020, which is insane. So there's a lot to that bridge. For being so tall. I feel
like that bridge is dangerous.
That bridge has a lot going on. Number 5, we're back in Turkey with the Yavuz Sultan Selim Bridge, 322 meters. It's a cable suspension bridge as well, opened in 2016 and has across 2 existing suspension bridges. So they're just like, just stick them together. And then number 6 is the Russky Bridge in Russia, which is hard to say for some reason. And that one's 322 meters tall. And it crosses the Russky Island across eastern Bosphorus Strait and was connected in 2012 between those two pieces. Not content with being the 6th tallest bridge in the world, they are actually the world's longest cable-stayed bridge as well, again with the beef. And anyway, there's a lot of squalling that happens here with the winds, so it's aerodynamic and blah, blah, blah. Number 7 is the Sutong Bridge in China. I mean, there's only so much you could say about a bridge.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Continue.
I would also like to say that the last 4 are literally all in China. So like this whole podcast is just like bridges in China.
Yeah.
Sutong Bridge, 306 meters, cable stay bridge, also spanning Yangtze River, built between 2008 and 2012. Woohoo! Then there's number 8, Stonecutters Bridge, 298 meters tall, opened in 2009 and has remained a tourist attraction because apparently it's just really big and has really great lighting dusk to dawn and really good for photos, I guess. This one also has 6 lanes of traffic for the highway, and is designed to resist typhoons, which makes me really scared because, yeah. There's also the Shang River Bridge, 288 meters tall, cable-stayed version. It has recently entered into the world's tallest bridge chart, only opening in 2021, so very recent.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's not a whole lot of information on its development because it is still fairly new. And then the Qixi is number 10, rounding us out, 287 meters tall. It's also a cable-stayed bridge, and it carries the G76 Xiamen Chengdu Expressway. And it spans the Deep Valley and Qixi Township, and it opened in 2016 amid rumors of debt and was apparently also vastly over budgeted. So, and that's about it. So Great. If you're curious, there's a lot of different articles. You'll see the ones that I posted in there that I actually used for this research. Even that is a little controversial. So there's like tons of people just weighing in. If you type in like biggest bridges 2024, you're going to get a lot of different information. And then you're going to see articles that say biggest, longest, tallest, biggest, longest, tallest, longest. And it's like,
I feel like vocabulary is very important in this particular realm.
And they take it very seriously. You want to know who takes it more seriously? China. And
I believe it. I believe crazy. It. They are the bridge capital of the world.
I'm just going to say it, I don't know what the rest of the world's doing, but apparently bridges are the next big thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to bridge you over into the outro now.
Get me out of here.
We're going to wrap up this episode of Mediocre Content. Feel free to send us an email with any questions, comments, concerns, or episode topic suggestions. Jinx, you are late to the party.
He's literally just arrived.
You can email us at mediocrecontentpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram or TikTok or Twitch. well, you can follow us on Twitch at MediaContentPodcast.com. We will not be posting on Twitch.
Go to YouTube instead.
Right now. But go to YouTube, which is also Media Content Podcast. And you know where to find us if you need us. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you next week. This has been Mediocre Content.
Thanks so much for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.